In QED next week, we focus on a world-famous building, the Leaning Tower of Pisa, to find out why it leans, why the lean is accelerating, and what can be done to stop it before its possibly imminent collapse. QED next Wednesday at 10 to 10.
The 138th University Boat Race. The 1992 Grand National. A unique sporting double. Coverage begins in Grandstand, Saturday, 12:15 on BBC One.
And there's a full lineup of competitive action now on BBC One in Sportsnight with Desmond Lynham.
Good evening. Over a century ago, our sporting forefathers came up with a few ideas that this week will delight millions of us. 153 years ago, the first Grand National was run. On Saturday, it's National Day again, and tonight, top jump jockey Peter Scudamore marks our card and picks his ride for the race. 163 years ago, the first Oxford-Cambridge boat race was rowed. Oxford, who've lost only one of the last 16 races, show us why they'll probably win again. For the first time in 11 years, this Saturday will be boat race and Grand National Day. The FA Cup competition began 120 years ago, but there's never been an all-second division final. Tonight we focus on Portsmouth and Sunderland, whose managers will be out to alter that against Liverpool and Norwich on Sunday. All those major sports events live on BBC television over the weekend. And tonight we have action from Bellevue, Manchester, Greyhound Racing's big television occasion, the final of the TV Trophy. And in football, we bring you Red Star Belgrade v Sampdoria of Italy, both teams competing for a place in the European Cup final at Wembley in May, which will also be on BBC Live. Red Star are the holders. Now, before the action, some football news, and a strike involving England's leading players is still possible tonight. The PFA and Premier League officials failed to resolve the dispute over television money after 4 hours of talks in Manchester. A further meeting is planned before Monday, and PFA Chief Executive Gordon Taylor said, "They haven't offered us any more money today, but the fact that they've come to see us gives us hope that the offer is not final." Right, we're off to Bellevue, Manchester for tonight's final of Greyhound Racing's TV Trophy in a few minutes. But first, let's show you how the 6 dogs qualified. The 3 heats took place last week. The first 2 in each went through. Commentary from Gerald Sinstad.
One lap to go here at Bellevue, and the favourite leads. Mobile Magic from One for Shamey as they go into the back straight for the last time. Jenny's Wish in third, last year's winner, has got a lot of work to do here. Mobile Magic from One for Shamey as they come round to the top bend for the last time. Jenny's Wish begins to make a move on the outside. Jenny's Wish, the wide runner, coming to make the late challenge, and Jenny's Wish comes into the final straight first. Jenny's Wish from Mobile Magic, and that's the order at the end. It was about 2.5 lengths. As they come to the finish line with a circuit to go, it's Swiss Trips from Fortunate Man, but the favourite has made a move wide on this bend. Fortunate Man from Trap 5, leading Swiss Trips as they go down the back straight. Shropshire Lass is in third with an awful lot to do. But Fortunate Man has never run before over this distance, remember, and still leads coming into the straight. Fortunate Man from Swiss Trips as they come up towards the finish. Shropshire Lass putting in a challenge, but too late. And it's 9 wins in 10 races now for Fortunate Man, with Swiss Trips in second. Bob's Regan leads, and with a circuit to go, this looks very much like another triumph for the 1991 Greyhound of the Year. Moon Magic is in second, Dramatic Deal in third. But as they go into the back straight for the last time, the margin looks big enough for Bob's Regan to hold. A great favourite with the punters all around the country. Bob's Regan leads from Moon Magic. Coming into the top bend, Moon Magic closing the gap a little bit, but Bob's Regan should hold on to this. It's closing up now. Moon Magic making a challenge, Dramatic Deal coming, Bob's Regan holds on, and Moon Magic took second. Dramatic Deal just too late. And Shropshire Lass, who finished third in Fortunate Man's heat, has just won the television trophy reserve race here, which may or may not tell us something. The going, incidentally, is exactly the same as it was for the heats last week. We've escaped the rain here at Bellevue that was forecast. It's windy, it's cold, but underfoot it's firm, and that may favour the fleet of foot rather than the out-and-out stayers, but we shall see. This is the field, the 6 who came through from those heats. Fortunate Man, the fastest of them, likely to start favourite. We can take a check on the early betting. We'll go and join Colin Betteridge.
And Fortunate Man is the favourite at 11-8. Bob's Regan 2-1. Jenny's Wish 11-2. Mobile Magic 8-1. Moon Magic 9-1. Swiss Trips 12-1.
And here in number 1 is Bob's Regan, the 1991 Greyhound of the Year, bred, trained and owned by Brian Timke. 5th in last year's final. He now has 103 races behind him. This year, having seen him retain the golden jacket at Crayford. He'd certainly add to his popularity tonight if he chalked up victory number 44 of his career. Bob's Regan, red jacket, trap 1. Number 2 is Swiss Trips, and there'll be a big following from across the Pennines for this one. Owned by Ernie Yates and trained by Tony McKenna at Sheffield. Irish bred, she only started racing in this country last August, but she soon won a good race over 932 metres, so there's no doubting her stamina. Beaten 2 1/4 lengths in her heat by tonight's favourite Fortunate Man. This is Swiss Trips, will be in the blue racing jacket from Trap 2. Number 3, Mobile Magic. This is another Irish-bred bitch, the youngest of this year's finalists. In her 8 races, she's had 3 wins, including the heats and semi-finals of the Crayford Golden Jacket. She started favourite in her heat, but as we've seen, was beaten round the final turn by Jenny's Wish. Trainer John Wileman is also part owner with Geoffrey Hopkins, and they believe there's better yet to come from Mobile Magic tonight in Trap 3 in the white jacket. Number 4, Jenny's Wish, Lionel Mannering's form bitch, trained at Hove by Eric Jordan, won this race last year from Trap 4, won her heat last week from Trap 4, and now here she is in Trap 4 again. After last year's win, she was beaten by Bob's Regan on her home track over a shorter distance, but tonight's 855 metres could be in her favour. Look for Jenny's Wish from Trap 4 in the black jacket. 5 is Fortunate Man, and this one, as we've said, impressed a lot of good judges last week when he ran a tremendous race to record the fastest time of the heats. That was his 8th win in his last 9 races and his first run over the real marathon distance, but he'd already set new track records in shorter races at Peterborough and Swaffer. Gary Davis and Martin Fortune own Fortunate Man. Tony Fell is his trainer, and he'll be in the orange jacket in Trap 5. Finally, Moon Magic, 20 wins so far in 51 races for this one. Her form this season has been a bit mixed. She's been beaten twice by Bob's Regan, for example, but there was only a length in it in last week's heat. Mrs. Judy Griggs is the only lady owner in this year's final. She has Moon Magic trained by Richard Steele at Ramsgate. Moon Magic, known at home as Sweet Pea, will come from the trap 6 in the stripes. While we've been looking at the finalists, there may have been some movement in the betting, so let's go back and join Colin Betteridge.
And trap 5, Fortunate Man, is now 6-4. Bob's Regan 2-1. Jenny's Wish 11-2. Mobile Magic 7-1. Moon Magic 8-1. Swiss Trips 12-1.
If you fancy favourites, I should tell you that on the 3 previous occasions when the television trophy final has been run at Bellevue, the favourite didn't show in any of them. However, this could be the first. It's Mobile Magic, the white jacket waiting to go in. 855 metres of the Bellevue track, £6,000 for the winner, plus the television trophy and a special presentation racing jacket. Second gets £1,000, third £400. A race of considerable prestige and a long and illustrious history now. This is the 33rd running of the event, first raced at Wimbledon, over 500 yards. 1959 it went to 700 yards, and in 1960 it was 880, and since then it's been more or less over that distance. They start away to the left of where we sit, looking over the finish line. They have just about that distance to the right of your picture, plus 2 full circuits to run. Reminder of the trap order then. Bob's Regan in 1, Swiss Trips in 2, Mobile Magic in 3, Jenny's Wish in 4, Fortunate Man in 5, the favourite, and Moon Magic in 6. The 1992 final of the BBC Television Trophy, and the hare is running. Out they come. Bob's Regan got out fast, and so too did Mobile Magic. And they're the first 2 round the top bend. Mobile Magic in the white jacket leads. Bob's Regan in the red is also there, but it's Mobile Magic, owned by John Wildman and Geoffrey Hopkins, leading down the back straight, but it's looking like a very tight race on this first circuit. Still, Mobile Magic holds it, but only just from Bob's Regan, and Fortunate Man, the favourite, is in third. It looks like a very good race developing here. They've got 1 full circuit to go. Down now the back straight for the last time. Mobile Magic just about hanging on. Bob's Regan is there. Fortunate Man is there, and Fortunate Man has come through to take it up now. The favourite leads. Fortunate Man from Mobile Magic. Bob's Regan is in with a shout. Fortunate Man coming into the straight in the lead. Fortunate Man the favourite, but he's tiring. Mobile Magic came through, and it was very tight at the finish between Fortunate Man the favourite and Mobile Magic. Well, we certainly had a very exciting television trophy final this year. Going into the last lap, it was Mobile Magic in the white jacket from trap 3 that led, and then Fortunate Man began to come into the picture, with Bob's Regan dropping back. Fortunate Man, the favourite, looking for his 22nd win in 31 races, took over coming into the home straight, but then Mobile Magic showed that she still had something in reserve, and at the finish, I think it was the favourite, but it is very, very close, and we'll have to wait for the official result of the photograph. Just look again at the way Fortunate Man seemed to take charge of the race, and Mobile Magic seemed to be fading. There was a length in it there, with Bob's Regan another length back in third as they went down the back straight for the last time, and from there you'd have put your money on Fortunate Man if you hadn't earlier. But what a game battle by Mobile Magic as they came up the final straight. Fortunate Man just seeming to ease off a bit, and Mobile Magic now is going to be first over the line. Woof. Would you want to decide that? I'm not sure that I would. What a very, very good race. Still waiting for the result of the photograph. It's certainly between those 2. big crowd, all clinging on to their tickets, waiting for the official outcome. Look once again and see if you can decide. You realise just what a problem it is for the judges. Look at it again and you could convince yourself that Mobile Magic has done it. It really is that tight. Fortunate man this side in the orange. Still waiting for the official verdict. And in 33 years, or 33 runnings, we did have a couple of years gap, but in 33 runnings, I don't think we've had a closer finish. £6,000 and a handsome trophy, awaiting the winner, and the winner by the proverbial whisker it's going to be. The crowd have certainly had value for their money. A long, cold evening's racing. Fortunate Man was a short price favourite, but Mobile Magic started at 14 to 1. And if she gets the decision, that'll be one of the longest price winners we've had. We've had actually two at 20 to 1. Town Prince at Wimbledon in 1958 and Bedford at Walthamstow in 1966. And last year, of course, Jenny's Wish won at, I think it was 12 to 1. And the judges clearly are not finding it any easier to separate them than we did as they went past us here. That's Fortunate Man we're looking at there. If he wins, it'll be his 22nd victory in 31 races. Mobile Magic has won only 3 times in 8 outings and has won only £580 before tonight. So even if she finishes second, she will virtually double her total prize money. Mobile Magic was the youngest of the finalists, half sister to last year's winner, Jenny's Wish. Judges still looking at the photograph between those two. Must be agonizing for the owners. Beautiful animals. Show you once again why we've had this long delay, and I doubt very much whether we shall be any wiser when we see them. This is as close as it could possibly be. Bob's Regan, the second favourite, was in third, deprived of his 44th victory. Fortunate Man, the favourite, has got the decision. It could not have been closer, but Fortunate Man wins the 1992 BBC Television Trophy from Mobile Magic. 6-4 favourite and 14-1 the second.
Did you back it? Now, even if you spend most of the year studiously avoiding horse racing, the chances are you'll still follow the form for Saturday's Grand National at Aintree. It's the great occasion when the nation has its flutter. 40 runners to choose from, and you can make some sort of case for nearly all of them. Peter Scudamore, champion jump jockey for the last 6 years, will be having his 12th ride in the race. And tonight he's taking a very close look at some of the fancies, and he'll be announcing which horse he'll be riding on Saturday. At one time, he would have hoped to ride Carville's Hill.
While the cheers echoed for Cool Ground and Adrian Maguire, there was disbelief at the destruction of the formerly magnificent Carville's Hill. His defeat was the end of a dream for Scudamore, who's still to win either the Gold Cup or Grand National. The injuries suffered by Carville's Hill, evoking over 100 get-well cards, mean that he, for one, will never fulfil Scudamore's ambition. He won't race again for at least a year. So now, assisted by son Michael, Scu began the long search for a suitable replacement for the big one at Aintree. Nowadays, modern technology assists the traditional aid of the form book. Scudamore's first call came from Cool Ground's trainer Toby Balding at Whitcomb. Would Scu stand by in case Adrian Maguire honoured his long-ago promise to ride Omerta? So, a few days later, Scu took the road southwest to the magnificent multi-million-pound complex built by property man Peter Bolton, close to Dorchester. It's a yard that could accommodate almost double Balding's 80-odd string. Cool Ground may be the local hero, but he's more than a little lugubrious. But the good horse makes for a happy stable. It's 58 years now since a horse last achieved his target to win the Gold Cup and Grand National in the same year. But the National was always his main objective. It wasn't lost on Peter Scudamore that for a Gold Cup winner, he's exceptionally well weighted with just 11 stone 1, and the going's all in his favour. But by the time that Scu arrived on the scene, Adrian Maguire had made up his mind to ride Cool Ground, although Sirrah J was the horse that he rode this morning. The big acreage at Whitcomb gives Toby Balding plenty of work options. Scu got the feel of Cool Ground on the all-weather canter. Physically, he looks as good as ever. While Balding took some persuading, the genial Bolton had been determined that Cool Ground should run at Cheltenham. The assault on Aintree is 3 strong. As well as Cool Ground, the stable runs Romney King and Sirrah J if he comes through his race tomorrow. So what does Scudamore make of Cool Ground?
Nice big horse to sit on, bigger than I had imagined seeing him in races. They often look different at home than they do on the racecourse. A lot of front on him. He's not impressive cantering, but I did a piece of work on him and he really hit the hill. That's when he did his most work.
The only worry I'd have riding this horse would be his traffic problems, I suppose. I'm sure he'll jump round if I can stay aboard, stay out of trouble with him.
If Balding needed any reassurance, Scudamore was the man to provide it.
I believe that the Liverpool fences on the right horse are easier to go and jump round than a tricky track at times.
Oh yes, I'm sure of that. I mean, I think it's a very good race course now. It's actually right that the Gold Cup winner should come on and run in the National.
It's an early start at Lambourne on a Monday morning. At 6 a.m, the horses have their first feed. It's a bleak life for the head lad, with the sleet and snow driving across the Lambourne Valley. Even now, some strings are making their way to the Downs. Docklands Express is always an early riser. If anything, he's been perkier than ever since the Gold Cup.
The fellow lands in the lead, but Docklands Express comes to challenge him. And it's Docklands Express on the near side, the fellow on the far side. Well, as they race up towards the line, it's head on head.
It was only in the last 50 yards that he faltered after hitting the front twice after the last fence. Kim Bailey moved to Lambourne 3 seasons ago, during which time his strings almost doubled to 46. Winning the National with Mr. Frisk was not unhelpful. Docklands Express was discovered in border country by Bailey's mother-in-law, Sarah Sutton. In the last 12 months, he has won or been placed in the Whitbread, Hennessy, King George and Go Cup.
Well, you've got a little superstar to sit on. You're beautifully balanced, don't take too much of a pull. You know, I ride a lot of horses, but I've really taken with this little fella. It really caught my imagination. And the more the exercise has gone on, the more alive he's become. And the ease in which he goes up that gallop is astounding. I'm very, very impressed with him.
Kim Bailey's only concern is the soft going at Aintree. The horse is too brave for his own good, but at present he's in the peak of condition.
He's an extraordinary horse because he actually thrives in the spring. He takes much longer to get over his races in the autumn. As soon as we start getting warmer weather, the horse improves very, very quickly. And the day after Cheltenham, I mean, he ate up that night and he was bucking and kicking and squealing when we led him out on the Friday morning. And I mean, you could have run him a week later. We did that last year after he won the Whitbread. We ran him at Stratford, and a lot of people said it was being greedy, but I mean, he actually bolted up with 12 stone. He does go and improve very quickly at this time of year.
So a little bit of sun for Liverpool, and that would raise your hopes?
Oh, definitely. If we have warm weather and the ground's good, he'll run a tremendous race.
If you'd just come back from abroad, you wouldn't believe it was the driest winter in living memory. But all weather comes alike to the friendly family stable of John Webber. His star performer is Auntie Dot, named after the trainer's Aunt Dorothea, who helped him financially in his early days as a farmer. John Webber rode the mare's Grand Dam, Honey Isle, and his son Anthony won on her mother, Dream Isle. 12 months ago, Auntie Dot ran the race of her life to finish third behind Seagram and Garrison Savannah. 2 years ago, Webber leased Auntie Dot to a family friend, Mrs. Ros Wilson. The mare's led in her work by another Aintree runner in Elfast. Whenever Auntie Dot's run a bad race, invariably she's been in season. This week, precautions have been taken. Webber's gallops had the unique asset of a specially constructed Grand National fence, built for a visiting French horse some years ago. Young Michael Scudamore is used to his dad facing up to a challenge, but Auntie Dot made it look easy.
Oh, my darling, I would go anywhere on you.
It's got a telegraph pole and rubber tires through the top of it. So.
Well, I'm glad you didn't tell me that.
No, I
before.
didn't tell you until after.
Well, she jumped it beautifully, and I'm sure she'll handle Aintree again as well as she did last time.
She'd have as good a chance of jumping around as anybody else, wouldn't she?
If Auntie Dot does win, it would be a triumph for a countryman and for the beautiful Oxfordshire countryside. Down in Somerset, there's a more pragmatic air about Martin Pipe's stable. 230 winners were trained here last season. Every one and every horse is kept busy. Bonanza Boy and Omerta are Pipe's leading fancies for the National, although Omerta hasn't seen a racecourse since his dramatic win, ridden by Adrian Maguire, in the never-to-be-forgotten race against the luckless Caer Villahau in last year's Irish National.
At the last, Omerta, the white face, Caer Villahau on the far side, and they're clear of Astro River as they race into the closing stages. It's Omerta from Caer Villahau over on the far side, and they're clear of Astro River as they race up towards the line. Caer Villahau on the far side, Omerta on the stand side, neck and neck. Omerta's holding them as they go to the line. Omerta and Caer Villahau locked together in the National at the line. It's desperately close, but Omerta's just made it.
It was the race that made Adrian Maguire. He hasn't looked back. By now, Skew was left with only two realistic options, to ride Omerta or Bonanza Boy. Skew's only once ridden Omerta in a race, so was anxious to get a good feel of him before deciding. Omerta's a horse with plenty of talent, but no one can remember a horse running in the National without a previous outing, let alone winning. The third horse in the canter was Huntworth in the centre, who was pulled up in the race last year. Omerta moves smoothly enough to Skew, and for a horse with a history of leg trouble, the recent rain is a big advantage. Martin Pipe was well enough pleased and awaited the views of Skew. Even more anxious was Omerta's owner, Dermot McMorrow, the brother of Carville's Hill's former owner. And now it was time to renew his acquaintance with Bonanza Boy, the horse that he's ridden at Aintree in each of the last 3 years and always completed the course, despite the forebodings of many pundits.
Well, little Bonanza Boy, one of my very favourite horses, been very good to me. What we need for him is a bit of rain. Softer the ground, the harder he can work.
And this is the secret weapon. In his last 3 races, Bonanza Boy has dropped himself out. So, on Saturday, he'll wear a pair of blinkers. Over the perfectionist, Skew was anxious to see if they would help or hinder his jumping.
Bonanza jump well then?
Yes, very good. I was just worried with blinkers on that he would flatten, but I was pleased to see him go into the bottom of the fence here and pop, which is what you want round Liverpool. I always think those ditches are very big round Liverpool, and you want a horse that can go right into the boards and pop up.
The morning's work gave Skew plenty to reflect on. But first I asked him how he assessed the other horses that he'd ridden.
Well, I've really enjoyed riding Cool Ground, Docklands Express and Auntie Dot. It's very difficult. Auntie Dot, I jumped her over a fence and I thought she was a lovely mare and I was most taken with her, but you'd have to say she hasn't the class of Docklands Express or Cool Ground. So you have to come down to those two. I love Docklands Express. He oozes confidence. He's a well-balanced horse to sit on, and you could see yourself going round the national course safely on him. He has fallen at the first in last year's national, so that would be a little bit of a worry. But I think it is possible of him reversing the table with Cool Ground. Cool Ground, a big horse, big long horse, big front on him, but he does feel very, very well in himself. And I'm just spinning a coin really in saying if I had the choice, I think I'd perhaps pick Docklands Express.
And what about the leading fancies that you haven't ridden?
A horse that I've always liked all the time is Gordon Richards' horse, Twin Oaks. I think he's made for a national. I think he's a very, very good horse. Gordon's trained 2 winners of the national and they know what it's all about. I do think he will take a lot of beating if on form.
And Brown Windsor?
Yeah, Brown Windsor, a superb horse. It's got the added advantage of Richard Dunwoody on his back. He's a springy, bouncy little horse. I suppose the one concern with Richard would be to get him not jumping too big early on, not using too much energy.
The biggest horse of the lot, of course, is Party's Politics, who was well back last week. Could you give him a chance? Yes,
he's a good horse, and his size is going to be an advantage to him round there. Yes, he has an outstanding chance with the ground coming soft, but of the ones that I haven't ridden, I would still plug for Twin Oaks, I think.
But in the last few hours, Skew has finally made his choice. He'll ride his old friend, Bonanza Boy.
He's been around there a few times. He's a very good horse. It looks like being soft on the softer side, which he's never really had round there. He's won 2 Welsh nationals, and Little Polviot a few years proved that you can come back from not showing good form and winning a national. He was just beaten by Seagram in the 4-mile chase at Cheltenham last year. And then he came out, Seagram came out and won the national. So the form is there for him to win a national. And I do know the horse.
look at all the runners there for Saturday's big race. Peter Scudamore and Julian Wilson with that report. Good luck to Scu, having his 12th ride in the race. Now, incidentally, we'll bring you a report later on the national outsider that's giving the bookies some cause for concern. A reminder that the big Greyhound event, the TV trophy, was won earlier like this. Fortunate Man on the near side beating Mobile Magic by, I suppose, a snout. As you know, the premier event in European club football is the Champions Trophy, the European Cup itself. This year, the competition has been run on a league basis instead of a straight knockout. And tonight, we bring you highlights of the match between two of the outstanding teams, Red Star Belgrade, the holders, and Sampdoria of Italy. A win for Red Star would put them in the final. The commentary from Tony Gubber.
Now, the man who can hit them is the number 11, Mihailovic. The angle's a little bit acute. There it is. They've got what they deserve, Sampdoria. There was no need to concede that free kick, and with this man on the field, it's the biggest mistake you can make. 23 years of age, the young star of Yugoslav football, and he smacked that one in. Pagliuca never moved his feet. Well, where was the wall? He played it over the top. Look at that, the keeper's hardly moved. As Marco Lana takes yet another kick for Sampdoria. Catanets, 1-1. Oh, the marking was slack. And Sampdoria have equalised. But Red Star can look among themselves and question the marking here. It looked very sloppy. Vialli goes in quickly, and he got a touch as well, Vialli. This time it counts. Italy's World Cup star producing a real moment of class and quality. 2-1 Sampdoria with 5 minutes to go to half-time. Well, he's been Sampdoria's top scorer for 3 seasons in a row. It was Mancini who won the header, but it was a great first hit. In fact, maybe the defender who finally put it in, Vasiljevic. This is Lombardo. Mancini let it run, Vialli behind him. Mancini, Sampdoria's captain, has made it 3. To the Italian team, and Red Star's lead at the top of Group A looks to be over. Mancini let it run first of all, then Vialli, 1 possession wide of the young keeper.
That was a bit briefer than planned because the Greyhounds went on, but you got the message. So the results: Panathinaikos 0, Anderlecht 0, and as you saw, Red Star Belgrade 1, Sampdoria 3. And Sampdoria's win takes them to the top of Group A. They lead holders Red Star by a point with just 1 game to play. A win in their last match at home to Panathinaikos would guarantee the Italians a place in the final at Wembley in May. In Group B, Benfica 5, Dynamo Kiev 0, Sparta Prague 1, Barcelona 0. Despite their defeat, Barcelona stayed top of Group B. Victory in their last match, a home tie with Benfica, would ensure their place at Wembley. In the Cup Winners' Cup semi-finals first leg, Bruges 1, Werder Bremen 0, and Monaco 1, Feyenoord 1. UEFA Cup semi-finals first leg, Genoa 2, Ajax 3. Carlos Aguilera scored twice in 7 minutes as Genoa, who of course beat Liverpool, fought back from 2-0 down, and Real Madrid 2, Torino 1. Now in Division 1, Everton 0, Southampton 1. Glenn Cockrell scored the only goal after 24 minutes in front of Everton's lowest league crowd of the season. Tottenham 3, West Ham 0. A hat-trick for Gary Lineker, taking his tally for the season to 29. So Tottenham moved up a place, while Southampton are now level on points with Coventry and have a game in hand. West Ham stay bottom and face an immediate return to the second division, it would seem. Division 2, Bristol Rovers 4, Southend 1, Derby 0, Cambridge 0, Leicester 2, Middlesbrough 1, Millwall 2, Oxford 1, and the Sunderland-Swindon Town match was postponed because of a waterlogged pitch. Top of Division 2, Cambridge's draw puts them level on points with Blackburn. Leicester move up 2 places to 4th. At the bottom, Oxford's defeat at Millwall leaves them in the bottom 3, and they now have just 1 game in hand of Brighton. Division 3, Reading 0, Brentford 0. Another disappointing result for Brentford leaves them 4th, now 4 points off an automatic promotion place. And in Division 4, Lincoln 1, Carlisle 0. Well, coming up shortly, a look ahead to Sunday's FA Cup semi-finals through the eyes of the managers of the 2 second division teams involved. But first, a reminder of how one of the Scottish Cup semi-finals was settled last night when the Old Firm met at Hampden Park, Rangers and Celtic.
Celtic finding the passes hard not to deliver accurately. Here's Tom Boyd. O'Neill forced to hurry there. It breaks from McCall. He has McCoist inside. That's for Ali McCoist. And Rangers are ahead. It's a magnificent goal from McCoist. It was a great pass from McCall. The delivery from McCoist was brilliant. And Marshall had no chance.
1-0 to Rangers, who meet either Airdrie or Hearts, who play on Saturday. On Sunday, we have a sort of football-a-thon here on BBC One, with both FA Cup semi-finals live, one after the other. It's Portsmouth v Liverpool at 1 o'clock, and then Norwich against Sunderland. 2 second division clubs involved, and the odds against both of them reaching the final, 6 to 1. Well, we went to see both managers, starting with Jim Smith of Portsmouth.
Jim Smith is what the football people call a real football man, the longest-serving manager in the league after Brian Clough. He started as player manager of Boston United, in charge of a team that included a winger called Howard Wilkinson. Smith's first major FA Cup tie as a manager was against Portsmouth, 20 years ago this year, in the 3rd round.
It was incredible, really, because at that particular time, I was the only full-time member of the staff. My wife was a part-time wages clerk for them. I was running the pools at the time, the tickets, selling tickets, coaching, managing, playing. And in fact, on the Friday night before the game, I always remember I was sticking numbers on wooden benches to hopefully collate on the next day that they all got in the right seats. I don't know about whether they did, but it was a great day, and unfortunately we lost 1-0.
Here's Smith taking a free kick in the shadow of the famous Boston stump. Not much else remains on film of that 1972 Cup tie, but Boston gave Smith an important apprenticeship in management.
You moved up gradually, really, didn't you? Boston, Colchester, Blackburn Rovers, Birmingham City. The clubs seemed to get bigger as you went along.
Yeah, and then got smaller. And then I've always had a bit of a roller coaster career, I suppose, up and down. But yeah, I mean, I did well, really, basically, and gradually moved up the leagues and went in the 1st division with Birmingham, having started at Boston.
Jim Smith very thoughtful. And Francis almost putting Powell in trouble, and Connolly has. Francis wants it pulled back. This could well be 2 for Birmingham, and Francis makes it so.
But Francis was destined for bigger things. In February 1979, Smith sold him to Nottingham Forest, where Brian Clough and his partner, the late Peter Taylor, were prepared to pay £1 million.
Peter Taylor rang me up at home and said, well, we won't give you £1 million, we'll give you 99999, whatever it is, a £1 show. We don't want him to be big-headed, to be the first £1 million player. And it was done over the phone in just seconds, actually, and it was an incredible story.
Now, when you moved on from Birmingham, the next stop was Oxford, and that meant, of course, working for the late Robert Maxwell, which must in itself have been quite an experience.
Yeah, I mean, in all fairness, I joined Oxford because of Mr. Maxwell. I went to meet him for an interview, and knowing this, you know, having been in the smaller club situations before, I do realise if you're going to go anywhere, you need a very strong and rich chairman. And his presence was incredible, and in terms of a working relationship in the early days, it was first class.
Under Smith, Oxford United became the first club ever to win the 3rd and 2nd division championships in successive seasons. Aldridge & Co. also had cup success.
It's quite a good ground to play first division clubs on, and the highlight really, we beat Arsenal 1 year in the Milk Cup. And but the highlight really, we had Manchester United, and we drew at the Manor Ground, went to Old Trafford, drew again, and then we Mr. Maxwell's luck again won the toss to bring them back to the Manor Ground, and we beat them, and that was one of the highlights of my career, and obviously for the Oxford fans it was fantastic.
No sooner had those fans celebrated the achieving of First Division football than Smith was away. He continued to live near Oxford, but his next stop as a manager was Queen's Park Rangers, where he worked for another self-made millionaire chairman, Jim Gregory. Later, the pair would link up again at Portsmouth.
Whatever Jim Gregory is, he's a wealthy man, and he's a very powerful man within his club and within his company, but he's not an high-profile man. He's not one that wanted his picture on the newspaper on every page, which Mr. Maxwell did at one time, and I think he's probably the only man that ever achieved that. But they were similar in their desires, but Mr. Gregory was a football man, actually. I mean, he is a football man and knew the game. I mean, I think his knowledge on the game is incredible, whereas Mr. Maxwell's knowledge was limited, to say the least.
At Queen's Park Rangers, Smith reached his first and until now his only major semi-final. They beat this weekend's opponents Liverpool in the Milk Cup before losing the final to his old club, Oxford.
Now, from QPR it was off to Newcastle, which is still said to be the toughest place to manage in the Football League by a lot of people. When you reflect on obviously the short time that you had there, I mean, how do you place that experience alongside all your others?
Well, I mean, it was a tremendous experience, and I would never regret it. The only regret I have, it was probably the least successful time I've had in soccer, really, at a club, and it was the one club that you really wanted to be successful in, because if you got success there, it would have been incredible. The political undercurrents that were always there, I tend to do things off the cuff and feelings. I didn't really look into the Newcastle scene long and hard enough to know what was happening, and when I got there, we had a honeymoon period because I'd got there, but the feelings of the crowd towards the board, and I mean, when the team got booed on the pitch, I thought, well, what have I come into here? And it just started again in my third season, and I just felt, well, I couldn't win that one, and I decided to resign.
So to Portsmouth, Smith took over at his 7th league club last summer and brought about a transformation. He loves the whole football scene, and his enthusiasm gets across to players. The 6th round victory over Nottingham Forest ended the cup dreams of the only man to have survived in management longer than Smith. But he couldn't have too much sympathy for Brian Clough, because Jim himself has never been as far in the FA Cup before.
I've never had success in the FA Cup. Other than funny, for Boston, because success is relative, and as I say, we used to always get in to the first round or second round, and then one time the third round. When you start in September to get there, it's achievement. But in the league, I never got really very far.
But this year's different. The exciting skills of Portsmouth's 20-year-old Darren Anderton were on display against Leyton Orient in the 4th round, and in the 5th, his combination with Colin Clark said a lot about Smith's football philosophy.
I've always wanted to play football. I think I've got to enjoy what I'm watching, and if I can enjoy what I'm watching, which is good football, I know the team will be successful, and I've always believed that. I've always felt that that's the way to play.
About at Sunderland for the last few seasons, not till the FA Cup reawakened that Roker roar. Today's outpouring of passion is unequalled since Sunderland won the Cup in '73 and manager Bob Stokoe danced across Wembley's turf. Attempts to recapture the glory since have seen managers like Jimmy Adamson come and go, usually acrimoniously. Ken Knighton was promoted up from coach but lasted less than 2 seasons. Alan Durban re-established them in Division 1, then crossed swords with the chairman and was sacked. Len Ashurst got them to the Milk Cup final, but they lost and were relegated. Laurie McMenemy came on a tide of euphoria but left them en route to Division 3. Dennis Smith had one season in Division 1 due to Swindon's irregularities, but his sacking at Christmas saw the name of Malcolm Crosby plucked from comparative obscurity. As a midfield player in the lower leagues, Malcolm Crosby's 14-year career never really hit the heights. He was at York City when they beat Arsenal in the Cup in 1985, but you'd struggle to spot the face of the 14th man in the dugout. It was after Dennis Smith had moved from York to Sunderland that Malcolm Crosby followed. The hunger for success and new trophies at Roker Park makes their job of manager one of the most challenging in football. But Bob Murray, as chairman of a Sunderland board who've decided that Malcolm Crosby remains only as coach in charge of first-team affairs, despite him being manager of the month in January.
Well, Malcolm's contracted to July '93 as a part of the management team in any event, and that's a 3-year contract of which we're halfway through. With regards to the future and what that might hold, it's very much in Malcolm's own hands, and we have some very important league games to play, all condensed into a few weeks, plus, of course, the Hillsborough result, and the future's very much in Malcolm's hands, and we're very pleased about that.
You're saying it's in Malcolm's hands. What you mean? It's the results, really, is it?
I think so. Yes, I think we've got to make some progress, and if that progress is made, it'll be rewarded.
At what stage would you feel able to make a decision? If your league position improves, or at the end of the season? Or?
Well, we've got flexibility on that because Malcolm's contracted to the club, and Malcolm's contract will be held by the club. We're very appreciative of what he's done for us.
Is he happy with the situation, Malcolm?
Well, I think he would not be happy until he actually gets the job. But if you look at him in 1988, when he wasn't known in football, and you look at him in December, when he relatively was unknown totally in football, and now he's a national figure, and good luck to the guy.
In a way, I suppose that's putting pressure on you, isn't it? Because we're here. I mean, Malcolm's name is now known to everybody. He's got the team to the semi-final. People are saying, why is he not the manager?
Absolutely. What a nice pressure to have.
Sunderland's place in the second division isn't yet secure, but the FA Cup has brought success, and players like goalkeeper Tony Norman would like to see the issue settled.
When he first took over, we won games on the bounce, and after a while, you realise that he's not going to be given the job full time, and it does affect everybody in a way. I mean, it would have been nice at one stage if he could have got the job, and everybody then can relax, if you like, and get on with the game. But it puts added pressure on, because you know if things don't go well on one particular day, and you might lose a game, and after the game, as you're driving back or whatever on the coach, you realise that it could cost him the job, because he hasn't been given it officially.
Malcolm joined Sunderland 4 years ago in a minor coaching capacity and still runs this seafront hostel looking after the club's junior players. Wife Carol is cook and his #1 supporter.
Very dry sense of humour and a very honest, down-to-earth man, I would say. So,
do you think he should be manager?
I'm rather biased, don't you think?
One item not for discussion at the dinner table, that old pal Dennis Smith hasn't appointed a #2 in his new job at Bristol City. Everyone, it seems, is waiting to see what happens to Sunderland's season.
We've got to get our league form right, and you know, you're right, league results will determine really whether I get the job or not. I know the Cup has gone well, and you know, obviously if we were to get to the final and maybe win it, it can all help, but the league results are very important.
Certainly brought your name to the notice of everybody in football, hasn't it?
It seems to be that way, yeah. But, you know, that's the FA Cup for you, really.
And regardless of what happens now in the Cup, when's decision time for Malcolm Crosby? Is it end of the season?
Well, the board have made a decision of late, and they've said that I'll be in charge until the end of the season. So, yes, I would think I'll find out what's going to happen when the season finishes.
Have you given any thought to possibly leading the team out at Wembley?
Not really. You know, my main concern is to get to Hillsborough and get a result there. And hopefully, when we get to Wembley, you know, we'll be ready to take whoever's there. But I haven't really thought about leading the team out.
I was thinking particularly about your title, really. I mean, there can't be many teams led out at Wembley by what is, in effect, a caretaker manager.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if anybody else has done it, but as the chairman said, he's not too keen on the caretaker bit. So I'll go there as first team coach or whatever. As long as I lead them out, I'm not really bothered about the title.
Tony Gubber and John Motson with those reports. Join us on Sunday to see how the second division clubs do against the first division. Football for you all day. It's live. Now, if you've arranged your holidays for a couple of weeks beginning around the 24th of July this year, you may end up with a suntan, but you could miss the Olympic Games. 17 weeks from the start of those games, tonight we begin our series of Olympic Reflections. This is where our guest celebrities recall their favourite Olympic moment of the past.
I can never remember a time when I wasn't riveted by the Olympic Games. It's been part of my life. I think I was always attracted to the basic ethos of it. In 1964, I was 23 years old. I was pursuing a career in advertising, doing okay, but I think working my bottom off, and trying to nick time to watch bits and pieces of it on the television. If I remember rightly, it was coming in a day late. We were seeing the film of the events about a day late, so we knew the result basically when we saw the television programs. I think I probably took more notice of that Tokyo Olympics because I was an almost precise contemporary of the people who were going for the medals, and so I identified with them very strongly. And probably because she was particularly pretty, I identified with Anne Packer. And the delight that I shared with her, I think she was pretty delighted, at her winning the 800 metres during that Tokyo Olympics was something I'll never forget. I think it was one of the great moments of my entire sport watching career. Here was someone who went out to Tokyo, a favourite, in some people's minds a firm favourite, to win the 400 metres. She qualified into the final, ran in the final, ran it in a personal best time, but was pipped at the post. I've spoken to her since, and quite clearly she was absolutely crushed by that. Her disappointment was amplified by the fact that her fiancé, Robbie Brightwell, ran fourth in his personal final, later to win a silver medal in the relay. So she went into this 800-metre final with a lot to make up for. This is a disappointed girl, but also a girl who'd run 5 races in 5 days, all of them at either personal best or near personal best times. She wasn't particularly fancied, and in her own words, she didn't really think she was in with a chance of winning, but she thought she might be able to snatch a medal. The first lap was run a very, very fast time, and well inside the world record time of just under a minute. And Anne Packer was probably the only girl who could live with that pace.
Duperer, the French girl, leading, coming up to the bell. Szabo on the inside, Gleckfeld, Germany, Krahn, Holland, Maurice Chamberlain, then the 2 British girls, and Lane-Eric Rusher at the back. And the time at the bell, very fast indeed, 58.5, a very fast first lap, and it's Duperer leading. The world record may go here. Duperer leads. In second place and fading is Szabo, then the Dutch girl on the curve, then the German girl, the tall girl on the outside with the black band and the white vest. Still no move from the Britons. Anne Packer back in 5th place and blocked at the moment. And Maurice Chamberlain going up on the outside. There's going to be quite a bunch here, and Anne Packer really isn't in a position to escape. And Anne Smith trailing right at the back, the new British record holder, right out of it. It's Duperer now leading. The Russian girl, Lane-Eric, going into 2nd place. Szabo is still there. So too is Gleckfeld, and Anne Packer now moving up on the outside. She's got to do a lot of running to get there, and she's doing it. Here she goes on the outside. A tremendous sprint, but she's had to come the long way round. She really had to come a long way around, and she's moving into 2nd place. And here she comes on the outside. A tremendous run, and she's going to do it. Anne Packer's going to take the gold medal. It's Anne Packer, Great Britain. Oh, what a consolation. Anne Packer wins. Duperer 2nd, Chamberlain 3rd, and she's done it. What a consolation for Robbie Brightwell and Anne Packer. Oh, fantastic run. A fantastic run, and there's Robbie Brightwell. And John Cooper and all the relay boys. Magnificent, magnificent, magnificent. And we think it's a new world record. It's almost certainly a new world record. It looks to be inside 2 minutes, 1 second. Superb run.
Whilst it looks on film as though she's out of it, in her own words, she felt anything but out of it. She felt quietly confident. She'd been thrilled with the time at the bell, and she knew she was the only class sprinter in the field. So what appears to be this lunatic surge for the front, this running way wide around, was not so much a terrible tactical misjudgment, because tactics weren't such a big thing in 1964, but was actually, I suppose, an expression of her confidence in her own sprinting ability. And as she says, the excitement when the other runners seem to be running backwards towards you and you're surging past them prevents you from feeling any form of pain. She was the only sprinter, and once she was past the last of them, she was home free. And she may have been home free. I was biting my nails, leaping up and down, and having something very, very close to a heart attack watching. The absolute Olympian dream, the totally equipped athlete who seemed to have another life. She was a sports mistress at school. She had a very attractive boyfriend who was a national hero. She represented everything that we attempted to portray in Chariots of Fire 20 years later. The ideal Olympian. And as if winning the race isn't enough, on the official film of the Tokyo Olympiad by Konichikawa, my memory is of a slow-motion image of Anne hitting the tape, and the smile that hits her face is, I think, one of the greatest single images I've ever seen in my life. I mean, it's the kind of thing that every movie should end with till the end of time.
We'll have some more Olympic memories over the next few weeks for you. Now, as well as Grand National Day, it's also Boat Race Day on Saturday. Oxford, once again the favourites, 6-4 on, as they seem to be almost every year. Cambridge have won the race only once in the last 16. Why are Oxford crews continually able to dominate? Ray Stubbs now reports.
You'll be hard-pressed to find much space on the banks of the Thames come Saturday lunchtime. Local residents know it's that time of year to move aside and allow the next chapter of a great British sporting tradition to be written. You can't accuse Oxford of messing about of late. 15 of the last 16 university boat races have been won by the darker of the two blue crews. The record book tells its own tale, of course, but it doesn't reveal the background to how Oxford have been able to dominate the race to such an extent. And in the Oxford Boathouse, they know it's not just the 8 who have an oar in their hands, who have important parts to play.
We like to think that everybody's got an important part to play in the Oxford team, including me.
Bertie Green's official title is Queen's Waterman, and he's got dark blue blood. This is boat race number 28 for Bert, and the knowledge he'll pass on to the Oxford cocks about how the weather can affect the Thames could prove to be the vital factor.
What we will do is I will teach you the course during the fortnight, and on Saturday morning of the boat race we'll go out and have a look, and then we'll decide what we're going to do. And you can't do it before. Not until the morning of the race, when you see where the wind is and everything else, can you decide what you're going to do.
Under Bertie's tuition this time round is Elizabeth Chick. Having weighed in as the Oxford Cox, the language student from Cheshire not only has to steer the right course, she has to discover the best way of motivating her crew.
There's certain times when I do sit there and think, oh, what would really get a certain member of my crew fired up? You know, who does he really hate, or that sort of thing. And I go through each member of the crew individually and try and think of a call, you know, the magic call that's going to make him perform to his best.
There's no doubt both Oxford and Cambridge were really wound up for last year's race. If they could have, both crews would have had cannons on board.
Set, go!
And there wasn't much attempt to hide the animosity towards each other either. So much so, there was so much aggression, sportsmanship got something of a soaking. There's a view that's the way it has to be, though.
I don't call that animosity, that's a release of energy. When you ask these guys to train for 9 months, flat out, 3 or 4 hours a day, and race 4 1/4 miles with the hype of the media. Their students, remember, they need to release. It's a release valve that goes off at the end of it, and that was all that was.
A lot of responsibility will fall on the shoulders of the Oxford stroke Ian Gardner. He'll set the rhythm for the power rowers behind him to follow. The young Scot only won himself a place in the 8 3 weeks ago. Oxford will feed off the fear that no one wants to lose in the dark blue boat.
There's almost nothing I've ever wanted more in my life than to win this race. And I think that's the attitude prevailing through the whole crew. I think that's why Oxford have had such success in the last few years. But complacency is the danger word of these 2 weeks. Basically, every outing we come to is we aim to improve ourselves and get better. And then on the day, we just got to perform to the best of our ability.
It's being said Cambridge have their best chance for years of turning the tide on Oxford victories. And if they do manage to do it and win, they'll thank a man who was an Oxford coach last year. John Wilson has dyed his clothes a lighter shade of blue and joined Cambridge. It adds extra spice.
Cambridge have had all the talent this year. You know, the media will tell you that at long last, this is their first year where they feel they've had the material to work with. This year has been about a rebuilding year for Oxford.
How famous a victory would it be this year if you could win?
Oh, this one would be very sweet, I can assure you, for a number of reasons, but particularly because we've had to do it ourselves.
Lead it in! Come on!
So we have the 2-horse race and the 40-horse race, both on Saturday, both live. A compelling grandstand, I'm sure, for you. I hope it will be anyway. Now, I did mention earlier in the programme that we had a report on one of Saturday's Grand National outsiders. Ray Stubbs again has the details.
By the time they all cross the Melling Road safely, we hope, on Saturday, millions of pounds will have been invested on who the eventual winner might be. Most of us are looking for an outsider, the dark horse who'll win us some money. And over the last few days, one outsider in particular has been attracting a lot of support. In fact, the interest being shown in the French challenger, Poisson d'Avril, has forced Ladbrokes to reassess their thinking.
We priced them up at 150 to 1 after looking at some of the form. But ever since that time, when the fellow ran over in Cheltenham, came over all the way from France, and he ran such a good race, that the French really seem to think that they can plunder all the big prizes this year. So the money has kept on coming in. We've been taking French francs, English pounds, you name it. And the price has come down now, so he stands at 20 to 1.
Having crossed the Channel, Poisson d'Avril has been stabled at Francis Lee's yard in Cheshire. The ex-Manchester City footballer happy to do a favour for an old opponent.
He's owned by Michel Bouchard and Raymond Culper, the ex-French international footballer. And when they entered him for the national, Raymond played against him a long time ago. He said, send him over here and let us do the final prep work for him. So he's been here 10 days now.
And how's he shaping up?
He's blinking good, yeah. He's won over 2 miles in France, and he's won over 5 miles, so he'll have no trouble with the trip. And the ground, he loves it, because last time he ran in France, he won at Chantilly, and it was very, very heavy. So I think it's going to be heavy at Aintree. I think he's got a super chance.
Having started the season riding point à point, point to point, the French connections of the horse suddenly decided that Aintree would be the target. They feel the horse has the right character for the National, despite an inconsistent season at home.
Plus que 100 mètres avant le poteau et Poisson d'Avril donne des signes de fatigue. Poisson d'Avril est dernier.
You can't see them, we can't see them, and they've got about a mile and a half left to race.
The fog at Chepstow prevented English punters from making an accurate evaluation, but experienced eyes of Francis Lee's yard have been impressed.
The trouble is that people don't know the French horses as well as they do ours. They're not so exposed. And the form, when you look at it, having won at Saint-Cloud and Pau in the Pyrenees and Cannes-sur-Mer, slightly difficult. He has been around Eastern Europe, so he's had a chance of a crack at some of the other type of horses that come over here. But it's very difficult to weigh him up. I mean, as you can see for yourself, he's a fine-looking beast, plenty of muscle over his quarters. Got rather shaggy coat compared to ours, but then the French horses, you know, are a special breed. They're called Selle Français. It's a thoroughbred crossed with a half-bred mare, and that's probably where you get the slightly shaggier coat from. But by golly, I've seen him work. It can go a bit, you know.
A lot of people will only have one better year on the Grand National. Do you think Poisson d'Avril could be one of those horses?
I think so, yeah. It's got that Gallic charm to it. And certainly, you know, people do go on the names, like it might be party politics, it might be cool grounds, but it could very well be Poisson d'Avril.
Well, there we are, very nearly midnight, very nearly April the 2nd. Join us for a great sporting weekend on the BBC. Good night.
was there when we won in '89, and this year we're going back again.
I can still remember when Portsmouth won the Cup in 1939. 53 years is a long time to wait.
I was 6 when Norwich lost the semi-finals. This year it'll be different.
I don't remember much about Sunderland bringing home the cup in '73, but this time I'll be there.
The FA Cup semi-finals. Liverpool take on Portsmouth, Norwich tackle Sunderland. Live coverage of both matches starts Sunday at 12:45, only on BBC One.
And now on BBC One, Ian McWhirter takes a look at the latest campaign developments on the hustings.